Welcome, friends, to episode 242 of Color of Magic and Magic Gaming Podcast, where we talk about all types of things that affect gamers at and away from their gaming tables and computers. I am your host, Power Dragon, and for 242 episodes, though the first episode where he is the father of a high school graduate, Brianpsionic, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, and I was wondering where you were. The first episode in which, like, wait, what? What's happening? Yep, we turned up this weekend. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, I could only imagine. That's got to be a big step for you guys, man. That's cool.
Right, good stuff.
See, now the other siblings, they ain't got an excuse because now you have an example.
There you go. A sterling example, definitely. A whole lot of fun was had. Really, just because I think that may have been the last high school graduation I attended since my own. So yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, I think I went to one for a family that I'm friends with several years ago, and that was the last one I went to. So it's not like I'm getting out to a lot of them myself either. But hey, if y'all want to support the show, hit up patreon.com/colormagic. You can get a shout out just like Rebecca Klussman for being a patron. So thank you. And we really do appreciate every one of y'all. But let's get into our lead story here, man. This one goes back a little bit because for those of you who don't know, in the before times, in the beginning of COVID, there was a program that Facebook had called the Facebook Gaming Creators Program, I believe is what they called it. Or Black Gaming Creator Program, sorry. And this was an idea to bring in a lot of Black gamers that were doing a bunch of content and try to diversify their list of streamers and content creators because they didn't have very many. And it was like, hey, let's just have a program. We'll have some money set aside. We'll get these people in here. We'll do this thing. And if I remember right, it had a big number attached to it, several millions. And this was also going to include some diversity programs along with gaming, some special events, some outreach stuff, a bunch of things. And I will tell you, being on the inside, there were end of year one, halfway into year two of the program, things started to get kind of weird. There was a lot of communication not being shared. Some people were being shifted around positions for no reason. Fortunately, the one good liaison we had, she ended up moving and getting another job. So she ended up with, I believe, TikTok's content stuff for a while. But there was just a lot of things happening, and I think I talked about it on the show. Like we would mention something, but they were like, oh, well, we shouldn't do that. We should do this other thing anyway. Just a lot of stuff that just went from very positive people are learning to almost no attention to everybody being ignored. And then lots of stuff happening. But we all kind of wrote it off as just, hey, this is just big business. Maybe the program's not doing what they want. They're going to just gut it, go a different direction, whatever. Well, lo and behold, in the last 2 weeks, there's a little story that came out. And turns out the Facebook, I guess her title was diversity manager, did some shady stuff with a bunch of the money. And that started to answer a lot of questions. Because now you're like, okay, some of the money wasn't there. And they obviously wouldn't be able to tell us about it, especially if there was an investigation going on. So they probably had to move different positions around. They probably didn't want people on that team that were there previously in case they were connected to stuff. So there's a lot of stuff. Now, admittedly, I don't know that all of this was connected to it, but I could see easy ways that we could associate. Oh, well, now this makes sense. Yeah.
Because as you mentioned, it didn't seem like the program was doing what it was designed to do anyway, because obviously they're trying to cut into what Twitch has, and there's no indication that they made any headway there.
Well, I will say, it started to, for a minute, for the first few months of the program, but then, like I said, it took a hard left turn and just fell off. And it was weird. But, as it turns out, for those of you that don't know, this woman, Barbara Furlow Smiles is her name. She was in charge of the diversity program. She was the diversity program manager. And she had a little bit of taste at Facebook and at Nike, as it turns out. Now, the bulk of her money, she stole. I was going to try to give it a fancy name, but no, she just stole it. I mean, just stole it. effectively came from Facebook, which I think of like 100,000, 200,000 of that money coming from Nike. But the total she has gone to prison for is $5 million worth of fraud.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's a big
that's
number, dog.
that seems like a lot to I know Facebook is a huge corporation, but good lord, that just
Yeah, this report here says more than 4.9 million from Facebook and over 120,000 from Nike.
oh, so she hit Nike too.
Yeah. So fictitious charges and fraudulent invoices. So basically, what she was doing is she was taking some friends out, having her friends buy some nice things or whatever. And then she was submitting fake invoices of like, oh no, these people did some work for us on this thing. Or like, oh no, they're part of this company that we work with, whatever. And of course, the big companies were like, all right, this seems like money we would have spent, I guess. But then they start looking at like, wait, why did we not pay for these things when we have this much money allocated for these programs? And then somebody starts diving and going, who even
Yeah,
is this person?
yeah.
Like, when would this charge even matter to anything we're doing? And then when they start peeling it back, they're like, oh, she's been doing this for a minute. Like, then when they tallied it up, $5 million worth. Like, golly, that's so much.
If you're gonna steal 5 million, you better make sure you purchase your extradition somewhere.
Yeah. And then even beyond the fake invoices, it says here that she onboarded several vendors. But then when they dove into it, those vendors were owned and operated by her friends and associates. So then she was getting kickbacks because you know how it is with these big companies. They just pay all kinds of
Yeah.
invoices. You just have to reasonably justify it. So they were making up some money and she's getting her little bit on the side while they're getting
Mhm.
paid. So, dude, she was in deep. Like, that's crazy. But $5 million.
Yeah, but that's just big corporation stuff where you can actually get 5 million before anybody says, "Hey,
Yeah.
wait, something's going on here." It's because again, at Facebook, that's essentially a drop in the bucket.
But it says between both companies, she was responsible for social initiative, DEI events, a Juneteenth thing in New York, whatever. So she was really supposed to be doing all this public
Yeah.
work.
And I mean, as long as you don't get stupid with it, and as you said, nobody is gonna really question those receipts. Okay, you Juneteenth event, you spent, $100,000 on potato salad or whatever. Nobody's gonna.
Bruh, like almost anybody who's worked for a major corporation will tell you they have probably just overspent or skimped a number here or there because they're like, you know what, I'm going to take the team out to eat today at this nicer place than we're really budgeted for, but the company will pay the 500 as opposed to 400 or whatever. They don't care. But when you're doing it like this,
Yeah, 5 million is eventually going to get noticed.
dude, she was defrauding the entirety of the whole arm of the company at that point.
Yeah.
Like, that's
And for it to be diversity initiatives is just such a horrible. Not that you want to steal from any part, but especially this is going to make it just that much harder and make people not remember the last time we had a diversity initiative. What happened? So you never should be stealing. But she is just salted the earth, so no diversity programs will probably grow back in that thing's place because it leaves
oh,
such a bad taste in their mouth.
and this kind of explains how she got caught ultimately is she was circumventing some of the vendor processes by linking her Nike corporate card to her PayPal and Venmo accounts.
Yeah, that'll get you caught
So then when she was paying the friends and associates or whatever
and just
with
getting her little
PayPal and
piece.
Venmo, those charges would go back to the Nike card. And then when they started looking at some of the kickbacks and different things, because she's probably getting percentages back on her PayPal thing and
Yeah.
all this other stuff. Like then the expense reports were starting to look kind of weird, and then that's where she got busted. Just like golly, man, 38 years old and just that's it, you're done. Like
So
and
so I
and
guess
oh, go
Nike
ahead.
caught her, and then Facebook started investigating. Is that
Well,
how?
apparently, it looks like Facebook was already suspicious,
Oh, okay.
but then that Nike thing also brought her name up again, and then the authorities went, "Oh, we bet this is the same person doing the same things.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's just such a huge number, man. And here's the other thing too. To get to that level of position in some of these companies takes time. She probably had to work her butt off, made a bunch of connections,
And
probably
just,
spearheaded a bunch of projects or whatever, and she's not even 40, and that's just going to be gone.
yeah, just burned it all up. Burned every bridge she's ever crossed. Well,
Like, even if she were to get time served or whatever, you know, she's not going to get back to the same type of job she had before.
nobody in corporate America is going to hire her for anything. I
Yeah.
mean, once you get branded a thief, you're lucky to let you work the cash register at Taco Bell because it's already on your record that you steal.
Well, the bigger problem is they're going to have trouble getting partners or businesses to trust her, even
Yeah,
if they did, right? Like your
exactly.
business partners would be like, "Hey,
When is
isn't this the person that XYZ?" And you're like, "Yeah, that's the same person.
and
Can we
yeah,
work with
nobody's
somebody else?"
exactly.
Like, man, that's tough. And the program was so well intentioned, when it started, which is why I even got involved to begin with. But immediately, you could tell, like I said, it didn't take long. It was at the end of the first year, going into that second, that things just weren't feeling the same for no reason, like inexplicably just went a different direction. And people
Direction
were
is being
curious.
into her and her friends' pockets. It was the
Yeah,
direction.
we didn't know. I don't know, even maybe it was going on before that. I don't know. It doesn't say how long. Actually, no, it says from as early a report they could find as January 2017 through at least September 2021 while she had her diversity, equity, inclusion titles at Facebook. And then that's before she moved over to working at Nike. So they know at least some purchases or things happened in that cycle. And I would venture to guess it probably went a bit bananas when you're talking the end of 2020, early 2021, when they made that announcement. Hey, we're going to have this extra, whatever it was, like $10 million toward these initiatives or whatever. But man, that's something. Just
It's
sad to
just,
hear it.
just sad to see somebody. As I said, she's ruined her career. She has probably ruined any kind of diversity initiatives that Facebook is going to want to do in that area. And as other companies are going to look at that, but see, here's why you shouldn't do diversity. And we've already been talking about, there's a bunch of stories being done about how, now that we're 4 years removed from the pandemic and George Floyd, a lot of people think it's almost like diversity and inclusion was a fad, and they feel like they don't need to do it anymore. We've solved that problem, or they solved that problem. Now let's move on and do something else. So we're already seeing people try to roll back those efforts, and this will do nothing to help that.
Yeah, and that's something to consider as well. It's just for whatever your thing is that you're in charge of. When you cause a problem like this at a company, it sets back everything people want to do in that category. Because the company now goes, well, last time we did it, okay, now we need to double vet the person. Maybe we need a bigger team now so we can keep checks on everything. Well, that's going to be more money because we're paying more full-time staff. And so now there's all these extra hurdles that get introduced, even though it likely was just because she was causing problems. They're going to take extra steps to protect themselves because of what happened. But yeah, tough one, but is an interesting story. Feel free if you want to look her up. The woman's name is Barbara Furlow Smiles. Uh, Sad story, but it explains a lot that we didn't have an
Her
explanation for.
wait, she's going to jail, and her name is Furlough. You can't make this stuff up.
Yep, yep.
That's like Marvel comic stuff right there.
But all right, let's hop into the soapbox for a second. This one, I feel like at least once a year I've had to bring this topic up, but man, people have to understand that content, like a lot of things in life, looks very simple when done well, to the point that you think anybody could do it well. And I think this applies to a lot of things in life because I've been around folks that'll be watching, I don't know, because I watch crazy stuff like the Lumberjack Olympics and just like crazy things. And I'm with somebody who goes, that probably ain't even that hard. And I'm like, I literally tell go try it. Like I will film you trying it. Right? They'll watch these gymnasts in the Olympics and go, I don't know what the big deal is. They're just doing cartwheels. Like, like what? Like, what are you watching? You know? But I think the same thing when you see people out there making videos and doing whatever, it's like there's so much you don't see that goes into the output of that, right? It's how many takes did that thing have? How much did they have to invest into equipment? Did they have to script the video before they did it? Are they working with an editor? Did they have to learn how to use different programs to edit or graphics programs to make thumbnails or something, right?
How
Like,
many hours did it take just to get that footage? Because especially if you're playing a multiplayer game, you got to you make sure there's not racist chuckleheads in your
yep.
feed that are coming over voice chat and any number of things. To get, well, as you know, to get maybe, let's say, 10 to 20 minutes of usable footage can easily take 4 or 5 hours because you just don't know what kind of games you're going to have. You don't
Oh,
want to. You don't want to show curb stomps; they're not really fun for anybody. But you ideally want to show the games where, hey, this is how both sides played well. Everybody showed you how to play whatever game you're trying to show content for.
well, yeah, I think you bring up some good points. Like, gaming in particular is more difficult than I think a lot of people believe because there's a lot of people who are literally going to turn on their computer, their game system, their phone, whatever, record their footage and put it up to the internet and be like, I don't understand why I'm not getting views. It's like, well, you just did the lowest level thing that anybody can do. If you don't have commentary, you don't have any music, you didn't edit or structure the video in any way, like, why is somebody going to want to watch it? And the people that you do enjoy watching, they've thought about so many things about, okay, well, what am I going to show first off? What levels do I want to cover? Why am I going to do it? What, even when I'm recording my stuff for Magic gameplay videos, I'm thinking while I'm speaking about, okay, this is the way I want this to come across on camera, right? This is the joke I'm trying to tell. I'm going to try to link this thing to something I was talking about at the beginning of the video, whatever, right? And then when you get to the video, you didn't even notice all those things, but it was a more enjoyable experience for you,
Yeah,
right? So you walk away going, man, I bet I could do this, and then you don't get any views, and you're like, why did that not work, right? And even for me, like I've fortunately been able to see the processes behind some of the other creators in our space, and they have even more going on. I mean, some of them have rooms with 3, 4 cameras and an overhead boom mic, and some of them have whole studios where they have like different areas they can shoot things in. Like they've invested over years to be able to make their final product look clean and crisp and simple or whatever. That's not something that just happens overnight. And it's tough because I do spend some time also helping other creators and they have this same perspective like I don't understand why I only got 50 views and I'm like, dude, you just started your channel 3 weeks ago and it's your third video. Like
yeah,
50 views is fine. like like I had some of my first couple I think did like 17. So it's like yeah, it just takes time to grow, but some people don't understand that. And I think on some level we get caught up in the I don't know, sensationalism of the internet, of social media where we see all these Mr. Beast type numbers where he's getting damn near 200 million views of video or whatever. And like that's not normal. He's not even in the 1%. He's in the 1/1000th of 1%.
right.
Like literally. Like he is at a level he's about a month, I think, maybe a month and a half away if the numbers stay on the same pace of being the number one subscribed to channel on YouTube. So to
Mind
compare
blowing.
yourself to anything he does is insane. Like the gap between me and him might as well be the size of the US, right? Like it is humongous. But people just they're like, oh, well, this person did this and got a million views. I should be able to get a million views. Well, maybe eventually, but it's rare that people have a video right out of the gate that gets their first million views. Matter of fact, the only recent times I know of, and there's probably examples I'm not aware of, but the recent ones I know of were not even that person's first channel, right? They took all these learnings they had from all these other things and then spun that off into this other thing that did well and got a bunch of views. And sometimes because of them having a background or history of it, and some people followed it and saw it. Some of it's just because they understood how to make videos and stuff now. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it. But the other side of this too is give your favorite creators some grace, right? Like, I watch some people, like, somebody misspeaks on something that's obviously not what they meant to say, right? Wrong word or whatever. Mention the wrong card when talking about a phrase or whatever the case is. And they're like, well, I don't know why you thought this. What were you trying to say here? This is stupid. Like, you know exactly what they're meant. Like, come on. Like, they probably spent an hour or two just recording that and then another couple hours editing it or whatever, and something slipped through. It's not the end of the world, guys and gals. Like, seriously. Like, we can live with that. Like, if the narrative is still the same, who really cares if the example's slightly off, right? Well, I've talked about it before. When you see somebody playing a game and then you go back and try to critique their play, like, they're already done. The game's over. Like, they can't go back and change it. It's literally a video that lives on YouTube forever now. Like, nobody cares. They really don't. They're going to pretend they do, and they'll be nice and polite and respond to
Yeah.
you, but they don't really care. Like, I'm telling you, I talk to a lot of creators. We don't really care. Like, we're already on to the next project, doing another thing. That situation you're talking about probably is not going to come up again. Sometimes they already know, but they were tired or distracted or whatever while recording,
Yeah.
so they just missed something, right? That happens. And I'm going to be real with you for a second. I would venture to guess most of the people that point that stuff out are probably even far worse players than most of the creators that they watch. Just being real. Right? But they want to hold them accountable to be
Yeah.
perfect or whatever. It's like, come on, man. They're putting content out for you literally every week. Sometimes, in my case, every day, but some people are doing two or three times a week. Cut them some slack. Like, they're already putting it, and let's not even talk about stuff away from the content, right? All the research you got to do, if you're buying outfits or costumes or researching stuff online, watching other videos to learn how to edit things. Maybe you're talking to sponsors, you're having to go to events to do appearances. There's all kinds of other things that they're doing while still trying to get content out to you. Like, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Just don't think it's as easy as it is. Now, that said, we like doing content and it's fun and we like interacting with you. We like bringing you entertainment to the point that if you finally want to meet Brianpsionic, he's going to actually be in an event. At least that's what I'm hearing. So what you going to be up to, dude?
Yeah, I'm going to be at Dreamhack Dallas doing some. Well, I mean, I'm not going to be in the tournament. Some other people are going to be in the tournament. I'm just there doing coverage, so to speak. But yeah, I will be. I don't even doing Smash Bros. I don't specifically know what part of the venue is because I hadn't been out there yet. But I'll be there on Friday, and listen, just creating a whole lot of content, doing a lot of stuff. And of course, as I've been mentioning, I'm doing a whole bunch of WWE 2K content. This year I'm going to turn 50 years old in November, and currently in the top 50 in WWE. Top 50 at 50. I'm Terry Funk out here. I'm fighting these young kids with barbed wire baseball bats,
See, that should be the
jumping
title
off
of a
of
video, hitting top 50 at 50. See,
right.
that should be the thing. What venue are they holding DreamHack at this year?
It's at the K. Bailey Hudson Center. It's called the K. Bay Center, as it's often called in Dallas.
Okay, cool. So there you go. If you want to meet up with Brian, that's a place you can go. Actually, dude, that'd be a good spot for you to make a lot of content. Like, you could get some YouTube shorts out of that, like do some like man on the floor stuff for different things. Like, that could be kind of cool.
It's definitely going to be interesting. And as I mentioned, got a whole lot of YouTube content coming out. I'm doing a lot of Muhammad Ali. People seem to like that. Well, I mean, Muhammad Ali's just fun. It's, a boxer in a wrestling game. It's kind of wild. He has those Rocky 3 vibes. And they actually gave him a few wrestling moves. He's not just punch. There's a lot of Muhammad Ali can go top rope if that's the thing you think you want to do. I don't know that I recommend it, but you can try it if you would like to try it.
Oh, there is something slightly related that also connects to wrestling that I saw recently. That, for those people that don't know, there's Arlington Convention Center has taken like a third of their convention center and converted it into an esports arena, which is actually pretty cool. But I saw that AEW, All Extreme Wrestling, is going to basically be doing a residency there during the summer in their esports facility,
I saw
converting
that.
it into an arena for wrestling, which is kind of cool. So you're going to get like, I think it's 4 weeks in a row, 4 weekends in a row, or something like that during the summer of AEW shows in Arlington, Texas, which is kind of cool. I don't think I've ever heard of that happening before. So if you're in the area, there you go. And if you're a nerd, you probably already know where that event center is. So
Oh, and
check it
also,
out.
since you
Mhm.
mentioned AEW, Fight Forever is going to be a free PlayStation Plus game for the month of June. So if you like AEW and for some reason hadn't picked that one up and you got PlayStation, hey, free wrestling games, can't go
Free
wrong.
is cool. People didn't seem to be super high on it, but free is still cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth free,
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
It's kind of like AEW, you can't do like we are talking about. WWE's had a 100-year head start almost. You can't
Yep.
necessarily expect the same level of quality, same level of content overnight.
Very true. But all right, let's get into some stuff that we learned this week because there's a couple of pretty interesting things, but yours happens to have to do with free games as well.
Yeah, this is kind of a thing we were like, okay, Microsoft has Activision Blizzard now. Other than just creating the largest gaming company in God's universe, what are they going to do with it? And they have announced that the latest Call of Duty is going to be day one release on Xbox Game Pass. So it's technically not free. You pay them monthly for Game Pass, but still, you ain't paying them $70. So that I'm assuming that's going to be the regular thing for Call of Duty every year, long as Activision is a part of Microsoft, which I'm sure is going to be the foreseeable future. So it's going to, I think it'll create some decisions. Some people do have both. I know I have. Well, we do a lot of content. We got all the consoles, but some people have Xbox and PlayStation because some people, like you may have a situation where your significant other prefers one, or you got kids that prefer one or the other. So it'll make some people, if you got both, there probably isn't a whole lot of reason to purchase it on PlayStation. We knew they'd do something. They didn't say, hey, we're not going to sell it to you on PlayStation. That'd be crazy. That costs way too much money. You want to sell as many copies of Call of Duty as you can, which means you got to have it on all the systems. But for people that have both, or people that haven't gotten their console yet, and maybe Call of Duty is really the only thing you play or the primary thing you play, that could influence your decision.
Should we consider this like the harbinger or the canary in the coal mine for the direction we're going with games? Because like Call of Duty, we know is a huge title in the industry. Pretty much every year it's going to be in a top 5, top 10 sold, money makers, whatever. But if they're willing to put this up on Xbox Game Pass instead of trying to sell all those individual units, that's got to be the way we're going now, right? If they're willing to do
I
that
think
with their
so.
biggest titles.
Because I'm assuming probably at some point we'll see that happen with whatever the next Fallout game is and so on, whenever next Elder Scrolls. Why would you not? Because those are going to be huge titles also. That's how you effectively weaponize Bethesda if you're Microsoft.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it makes sense. I would have always thought there'd be some nominal fee for it, because it's Call of Duty. You can always get people to pay for it, even if it had been $10 or $20. People would have paid the extra, I would think, to have it. But the fact that they've done the math and said, like, it's worth it for us to just put this up on Game Pass and get people to buy Game Pass.
Well, it's like how we talked about with Peacock. A bunch of people bought Peacock one time to get the NFL game and either forgot they canceled it, or a few people probably even, hey, wait, there are a few other shows I like. Plus, as you see this year, now Netflix is buying football games. It's just NFL. NFL brings people to streaming services. Call of Duty brings people to consoles.
Well, let's say I'm sure they've done the math already, but by their equations, there's probably some number of people that don't have Game Pass that will buy it just to play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And then those people are going to have to pay for it for 9 months at least
Right?
to get their money's worth out until they're burnt out on it or whatever.
Because if you
Which,
already just got the Xbox and you go ahead and
yeah,
buy Call of Duty every year for $70, why wouldn't you just get Game Pass?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that actually makes enough sense. If your math works out that you're getting that many new accounts or that many accounts specifically to play Call of Duty, yeah.
And once you've purchased the Game Pass, there's probably 200 games. You'll find something else you like. There's other shooters on there. You'll I know once I'm paying for something, hey, I'm not going to just play one game. I'm going to try everything that I even looks like I might enjoy because it's free for me to try.
I mean, I guess they're going to use streamer math, right? Like Netflix, where
Yeah,
they're paying for all these movies, these stand-up comedy shows, whatever, and assuming you're going to get some number of account signups or life of 6 months, 12 months, whatever of these accounts because they bought in for these other services or movies that they want to see. So maybe it's the same thing. But yeah, interesting idea though. I wanted to follow up on last week's thing that we mentioned that Major League Baseball decided they are going to take care of all of the living members of the Negro leagues that, participated still around. But what they did this week is they said, you know what, they're going to take the extra steps and they're going to incorporate all of the stats and records from the professional Negro leagues into Major League Baseball. And that's actually kind of cool. Now, of course, some of the typical chuckleheads came out and had something to say about different things and different records and blah, 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 blah. But the thing is, it's like we said, they've taken so much stuff from them. And I don't mean like taken away from them, but utilizing a lot of stuff they came up with from different structures and organizations. And you're talking about different pitches and strategies that originate in these leagues. So we can't even say that these leagues weren't good, that the people weren't skilled, that they didn't know what they were doing because Major League Baseball adopted a lot of it.
right.
The other thing is too, this is not the first time this has been done, right? Because a lot of people are like, I don't know why they're making exceptions, whatever. If you go back and look, they already include the other 6 major professional baseball organizations in their records and history, but had specifically excluded all of the professional Negro leagues that existed. So it's not even like this is the first time we've done something like this, even in the past. So this is just saying, okay, we're now recognizing all of major professional baseball that has happened in the US under one organization and rule set and
Right.
whatever, and being officially Major League Baseball, which
And
is
they
kind of
did
cool.
exhibition matches against major league players all
Yep.
the time that weren't sanctioned by Major League Baseball. But hey, both sides are really talk about learning. They learn business. People are willing to pay to see because again, everyone to see can the Negro League players compete. And these
Mm-hmm.
games were pretty much always close. The Negro League players won many of them, and you saw the incident where Satchel Paige, and we don't even know how old Satchel Paige was. The best estimates they have, probably somewhere in his mid-50s, was striking out one of the best teams in professional baseball when he was finally allowed to play regular Major League Baseball. So imagine what he would have done had he been allowed to play in his 20s.
Yeah. And I also want to include that people were concerned that the records were going to be bloated because of different games. According to the stuff I've read, there are things that were the equivalent of, like you're saying, like exhibition games, different specialty matchups for different reasons. Those are not included. They've actually only included the official games that went on to count for records for like championships and stuff like that. So they are fair records. Now that does lead to some people being incorporated where some of their stats don't count, whatever, but they're still in there. It does change some of the things as far as like who the new like number one on base percentage is and number one home run leader is, stuff like that. But it's interesting, to say that now you can have that because basketball kind of already has that because they have the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. It's not the NBA Hall of Fame, so they do include a lot of different groups of basketball that get included. Major League Baseball is kind of going down that same road, which
And baseball has always had stats that they don't know, like Barry Bonds, for example. In a lot of people's mind, there's an asterisk next to Barry Bonds because of him, Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, because of the steroid thing. They put an asterisk next to Roger Maris's home run record because he played in a few more games than what Babe Ruth played in. Baseball has kind of always had these, and these things go back, 50, 60 years. There have always been controversies about records because things change, rules change. Bob Gibson became so dominant at one point that they lowered that they basically had to like lower the pitcher's mound because he was with the mound where it was, he was unhittable. It was just making it just really, hey, we can't even see the ball. We got no chance here. You got to do something.
yeah, I just think it's a cool point in history for them to just say, "Hey, all of this was important to our existence and
Right.
our history and our sport that we can't really ignore it anymore. Like we should have done this a while ago." So, pretty cool. Got to give props when it's due. Major League Baseball being progressive. Who knew?
Yeah.
The sport that is probably the least likely to be like they're upset to do promotions and pregame and all this other stuff, but
People get
make
mad when you flip your bat.
oh yeah, yeah. But they're making a good move there, so I'm with it. But let's get into some topics here because we have a couple of kind of interesting ones. And this first one we knew was coming. The minute we saw Pixelborn, we said, "Man, this is sweet. If you don't have access to Lorcana cards or groups to play with, you can test stuff on here, and it's got all the actual cards and text and whatever. This is pretty sweet." But we all knew at some point
Yeah.
you're gonna have to pay the piper.
The
Eh,
mouse was gonna the Pied Piper. I don't know. Is he a Disney character? Probably.
yeah,
Peter
probably
Pan,
right.
somebody.
But we just knew you can't mess with the mouse's money.
No.
Eventually, it's gonna come for you, and it came for the dude over at Pixelborn. That he was officially given a cease and desist. And it's amazing to me how many players still think that like, oh, they're just being greedy and whatever. It's like, dude, they
No,
own
it's
it.
yeah, it's their stuff.
Like
That's literally how copyright law works. You
they
can't just decide,
paid
hey,
for the research. They paid for the
uh-huh.
development. They paid for the production. They've paid for all the samples and promos and whatever they're going out to stores. They're giving out the prize money. Yes, they're going to have a problem with it. Right?
Always were.
And I think people don't understand that legally they also have to defend it. Because if they don't, then somebody could make another thing that's even better than Pixelborn and makes more money, and then it's going to be harder for them to make a legal case against because they'll be able to say, "Well, you knew about Pixelborn and didn't say nothing, so we thought everything was all good."
Yeah.
And then that becomes a problem. So yeah, I don't get that part of it. The other is
But
I'm
people
hoping.
know that Disney, or I mean, there was a daycare back home in Shreveport that had some poorly drawn Disney characters, and I passed by there one day, and lo and behold, they had to change
Yep,
all of that stuff to something else. Like word,
yep.
word Disney. Like, I knew if they ever saw it, that was happening, but I didn't realize.
And
Okay,
even in that
yeah,
case, let one of them like caretakers beat a kid or something, and
right.
then when somebody's doing a news story, it's got Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, whatever, in the shot. Disney ain't gonna want that for sure.
Mm,
That's a liability thing for them. But yeah, like I'm hoping for the owners of Pixelborn that they made the proper play because I've been saying from the beginning, I think there's two good outcomes for them. Either outright sell everything to Disney or Ravensburger, whoever's going to be in charge of running the events and software. Sell the code, sell everything, get money for it, hopefully get to work for them and maybe manage it or whatever, since you know the ins and outs of it, but at least get something. Because otherwise, now you're just going to have to shut everything down and then you got nothing for it. So, don't know what's going to come of it yet. I don't know that part of it, but I'm hoping for him he at least got something because that's a lot of work for a one person operation.
right.
It's crazy. But y'all, you can't just go out here and be copying somebody's stuff and think it's okay.
No, it's we all, yeah, it's a well done product, but we always knew the day was gonna come where Mickey's gonna be like, "Excuse me,
Yep. You
where's
you
my money?"
yep, I told you could hold it for a minute, but now I
Right?
need my money back. All right. Now, I don't know if this means that they've actually officially decided they're going to make their own software, or if they've
That's
got a
what I was wondering because,
partner
like,
that's going to
as
produce
we
it.
said, we've known for a long time that they have to be aware Pixelborn exists. So just a matter of the fact they're moving now makes me think, okay, maybe their digital client is almost ready, and they're gonna go ahead and jump
Yeah,
over
maybe.
here
Who knows? There's still a
because
lot that we don't know about, but we'll see. But I'm with you, dude. Maybe that is exactly it. Maybe it's just they waited until it was going to be a conflict of interest, and they just said, "Okay, now that we got our stuff lined up, or at least we're going to start developing it, we kind of need you out of the way."
Because now the people that are hooked on playing online are hooked on it. They got the digital. They got the digital Mickey Mouse crack in their system, and they're not going to have a way to get a fix.
Yep. It ain't there yet, but it will be soon.
Yep.
So yeah. Credit to him though, making a great piece of software. Just somebody's. It's not yours.
Yeah.
So
And he did, serve the game during a very important time when even if you
yeah,
wanted to buy the actual cards, you couldn't find them anywhere. So a lot of people would have never been able to pick up this game and learn how to play it if it wasn't for Pixelborn, but none of that changes copyright law, unfortunately.
yeah, and that's the other thing too. I don't want to make it sound like I'm just like, oh, see, told you so. No, like the dude did a hell of a job. Like legit, it's a legit working, clean piece of software for one person to have put together.
Yeah, he was the hero we needed for Lorcana when you really could not go hardly anywhere and get cards.
Yeah, and I tell people like, hope he got paid. That's all I'm hoping that he worked himself into a position, whether it's selling the codes, the software, whatever, or himself getting a job with them to manage some of it, since he knows what works, what doesn't, whatever. Because that's a lot to put in, which I'm sure he didn't get near the equivalent out of it. That he's putting into it.
And also, maybe Disney realized that while people couldn't get product, this is a way for people to get in, learn the rules, and then get really excited about and hooked on playing the game. To where okay, now they'll actually go to stores, or if you make a digital project, they're going to want to buy that because obviously, if people get some things we were talking about as they had the problems, it's hard for anybody to pick up your game and learn it if they can't play it
Yep.
anywhere.
Well, let's bring it back to Magic for a second because there is news that we're ever so close to having, I believe, the first million subscriber Magic the Gathering channel. And it's Tolarian Community College, to no one's surprise, really.
Right.
But yeah, I believe he's at just under 6,000 as of the time of this recording of hitting that. And at his numbers, he'll probably hit
Yeah.
that by the end of the month, if not middle of next month. So this is pretty cool, that a guy who I believe at this point will probably put in 12 years or something on YouTube making gaming and Magic related stuff. Obviously, a pillar of the Magic community. Helped a lot of people out along the way, raised money, record numbers of money for charity. Like the dude's earned his spot. So, I mean, if we're going to have somebody be the first million, you almost always want it to go to one of the good guys.
Yeah.
So,
And
might
he
as well be Tolarian Community College.
definitely fits that category. The professor is a righteous dude.
Yeah. So, because that's the thing, you always see like, how'd this channel get so big, or how'd this
He
person
didn't.
get all the money, or whatever. So it's cool when you see somebody and go, yeah, that one, I like that person having it,
Right.
right? They can have the title and the record and the money, like they've earned it. So yeah, good on him, man, because it's a lot of time to put in. First off,
Definitely.
to even get to that level, and at least for the second half of that time, he's been doing it at a pretty high level. So, even helping coming up with new shows, now he's making appearances at things, being part of production stuff. Like, and I've gotten to work with him once too, and the dude has a whole thing going on. So good for him. He's where a lot of us aspire to be as creators,
Right.
5 and 10 years down the road. But that aside, we did get past the month of May, almost into June, and there's a bunch of new news on video games. So why don't you fill us in on that, dude?
All right. As you mentioned, we talked about. I call them kind of the graduates because it seemed like the couple of these games were in development for forever. Specifically, X Defiant and Multiverse. X Defiant is kind of a free. It's I guess almost kind of describe it as if Call of Duty and Overwatch had a baby. It has obviously first person shooter, but it also has kind of super abilities for your team, and the characters are based on basically factions from various Ubisoft games, such as Far Cry, all the 35 Tom Clancy games, Watch Dogs. So that's kind of the hook, as it were. And they really it had a long gestation process, several betas. The date was moved, I forget how many times, but it's finally out. and it's getting decent reviews. So
You
we're
know,
getting there.
it seems like that type of game would, right? It's just meshing different universes and styles together to make it work. And that seems to be a working
Yeah.
formula these days.
Now, I will say, kind of one of the things that really is going to have to kick it in the teeth is, hey, it's pictures. Hey, you like Call of Duty, but you don't want to pay $70, and dang it, if you got an Xbox,
Yeah, that's not a
you
thing
ain't
anymore.
paying $70 for Call. So I hate that for them.
Ah,
They
you
are
know
probably
what?
the people that didn't predict that or didn't think about it.
But if this had come out like a month or two ago, like it was supposed to, that probably would have made a lot of sense.
Or I mean, we're talking like a year or two
Well,
ago.
yeah,
In
it
the
could have been
case
a
of
year ago.
Xbox,
Yeah.
it's been in the hopper for a minute. I think it was originally supposed to launch. I think the first date I heard was this time last year.
Mm.
It's been delayed for a minute. But I mean, I've played it. A lot of fun. If you enjoy that type of shooter, I think you're going to enjoy this. And the developers are very quick to communicate on Twitter. Let's say, hey, yeah, we saw that thing. A lot of people complain about the time to kill, and they say, hey, that's actually on purpose. If you hit your headshots, the time to kill is much faster, and we did that by design. The game will make you a better player at first-person shooters if you allow it to. So that was. You may think that's cool. You may think that sucks, depending on how much you want to play or how casual you want to be.
Yeah, there's always people though who don't like, I just saw the other day somebody was complaining about Magic Heaven Lands is stupid. And everybody's like, nope, that's actually a feature, not a bug. Here's why.
Right?
Right. It's just one of those things. Actually, randomly, I was thinking about this the other day. The only game I know of that's had a really strong run without an actual resource system in their card games was actually Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
Like everybody else seems to have some type of resource system to get things going or play certain cards or have certain colers of things. Even
And
like
even
Pokemon.
Yu-Gi-Oh has, hey, if you control this thing, you can sack it to play this thing.
Well, yeah, that's sort of a resource system. Like any card can be a resource, depending. But yeah, cool stuff. I mean, there's lots of games coming. It seems like.
Yeah. And the other one I mentioned, Multiverses, that one actually was kind of weird because it had come out, or at least we thought it had come out. They said beta, but usually when people say beta, but the game is out, I mean, tell you, okay, you're going to get to keep playing this, and we'll just patch things as we go. But the player count went really, really low. There just for a while was virtually no communication from anybody connected to Multiverses. Then we had the weird announcement, hey, yeah, we're going out of beta. Oh, okay. I guess that means we think it's figured. It's actually going away. It's going away for a whole year. We're like, wait, what? We came playing it. We've been playing it for months now, and all of a sudden, it's coming back in 2024. And I got to say, at first, I didn't believe it was coming back because this we talked about on the show. Warner Brothers has been firing a whole bunch of people out here. They've been canceling movies that were already pretty much finished. They've been axing TV shows and they've been wilding out here. So I, for a long time, did not believe it was coming back, but it actually has. They've added a lot more single player content because that's one of the primary complaints that if you didn't want to grind online play, and a lot of us don't, there was really nothing that you could do in that game in terms of offline modes. And now they've got a whole lot of PvE stuff that came back with a bunch of new characters, including randomly Jason Voorhees, who I just talked about a few weeks ago, like we didn't think could even be in video games because there were a whole bunch of legal issues around Jason. But Warner Brothers, can write checks that most people can't write. They got it figured out that, hey, seriously, how much for Jason? Well, no, seriously, we need this game to work. How much for Jason? This is one of the top characters that people say they want. So we need
I
Jason to
mean,
be able to
who
fight
knows? They
LeBron
might own
James.
the rights to use it certain ways. I have no idea.
Yeah, because I think one of their many purchases back in the day was New Line Cinema, I want to
Yeah,
say.
so
I
it's
think
possible that they didn't even have to pay extra. I don't
it,
know.
wild times. But yeah, it's getting great reviews also. As I mentioned, I feel bad for Agent Smith because he was revealed at the same time Jason was. And so many of the videos were, yeah, Jason Voorhees and that dude from The Matrix. That's the villain from The Matrix, and I'm sure at some point Neo. Those are big reveals. They just kind of got they kind of got brushed aside because people were so happy to see Jason Voorhees. And wait, you're putting Jason Voorhees in the game with Bugs Bunny and Steven Universe? Yeah, we are. Jason's gonna slash Bugs Bunny. This is happening.
Well, you know what? It's like we said though. Like they own one of the largest libraries of stuff,
right?
And stuff being literally television, movies, video games, whatever. So they have a lot to pick from.
Yeah,
if they want.
We're talking WB. I wonder if AEW wrestlers get in there at some point.
Probably.
Because they got LeBron James, and if LeBron James can fight Jason, so can Kenny Omega, right?
I'm just saying, if you have any connection, there's always an opportunity, for sure.
Right?
But all right, that brings us to the dinner table. And this is an interesting one because people are constantly talking about gaming being pricey, gaming being expensive, not being able to budget for gaming, which, are all fair things.
Yeah.
But the question came up, like, is there an item that in gaming that you initially couldn't afford that you really wanted? And I was thinking, like, for me, as an adult, not so much, because I kind of do like one thing and I just do that for a long time. So I'm not buying 20 games at once, or I don't have like 3 game systems at a time. So usually if I've wanted one, I've been able to get, assuming it's in stock when I want it, I've been able to get it and have it. But as a kid, the only thing I can think of is just like probably the one time I was genuinely surprised with a gift was when we got the Nintendo, right? Because I was like, probably too expensive. We'll probably never have one. I had a friend who had one, so like I knew about it and I played at his place. But then I was like, oh snap, we actually got a Nintendo. Like, this is crazy. And then my parents got us Dragon Warriors, one of our first games. That game was hard as balls.
Right. Well, I mean, you might not be able to get a game every month, so we need something that's going, just go hook you up.
I think everybody who plays Dragon Warrior at some point got their butt whooped by a silver slime one time. Like, you'd be walking up, you're smashing all these little green slimes, and you just venture in that area you ain't supposed to be at yet. And you're like, oh, a silver slime. I bet you this is worth more experience. And then you hit it, and you do 0 damage. Yep. You're like, I'm gonna die now, huh?
Yep.
Right. But yeah, I think that's the only time I can think of where, like, because don't get me wrong, like there was a lot of things in life we just couldn't have or couldn't get, but like, I think that was the only one. I think because I think after that, I was mostly like getting to a point where I'd save up some money or I could get a thing here or there. And then, of course, once high school, college, whatever, when I moved off, I had my own jobs, my own money. So it wasn't as big of a deal. But I don't know, dude. What about you, kid or adult?
I think I actually dodged a bullet. One of the things that I wanted as I would say probably a teenager and never got around to saving up enough money for was an Atari Jaguar. And it really bullet dodged because I'd have been, those things were about $200 and I'd have been very mad because that one didn't go. It just it never took off. So
because there was the Jaguar and that other system that was like the direct video game port or
the 3DO.
Maybe it's 3DO, the one that had like the good fighter games and stuff on it that they were taking from the arcade and turning it into a home console. Yeah, because both back then those were like $400, $500 systems.
Right.
Like think about that because that's like you're talking like 1994. That's a $500 system where like just right now you could go get a PlayStation 5 for $400 or $500.
Yeah.
Right, like that tells you how pricey those, especially we can go get a Nintendo for like $150 or whatever it was.
And you'll have far more games to play on the Nintendo because more people are going to support it. By that point, you knew that, Nintendo's going to go.
Hell, even the Super Nintendo was only like $200 or $250, I think, at the time. So they were at least double the price of the other systems.
By that point, Nintendo was an established brand. You knew, hey, they're going to make the other systems, my parents were gamers, so we started with, I had Intellivision, I had the good Atari, the 2600. We usually had whatever the primary video game console that was hot was. And then as I transitioned from teen to adulthood, as you mentioned, my pennies from Papa John's Pizza would go toward my Super Nintendo. And I don't think I didn't get the Genesis until much later. So I guess that was the one that I didn't, because I think you kind of had to choose, like, hey, your Super Nintendo house.
Yeah, I was mostly a Nintendo person.
we wasn't getting both back then. So I always went Nintendo, and then ended up getting the Genesis later after it became almost the collector's item, and then Sega Dreamcast. Wish I had kept. I think I had a pawn in the Dreamcast after I was moving out here. To wish I had not done that because things are
Yeah.
collectors now.
Dude, also random shout out to all these random corporations that are hiring because man, I think we all worked at like a pizza joint, a grocery
Yep.
store. McDonald's probably hires 1 in 5 people in planet Earth at some point.
I think I was at Papa John's and Kroger at the same time, if I remember correctly.
There you go. So like those do help us get through some of them early years, as we're figuring things out.
And especially if it's a restaurant, hey, that's how you eat. Sometimes, hey, don't throw that pizza out.
Bro, dude, I'm telling you, I was working in a grocery store and McDonald's at one point, and I definitely we made a little extra at the end of the night at McDonald's, going, we're just gonna throw this out. So why don't everybody take a couple burgers or some fries or something, whatever, home? Like
inevitably somebody would order pizza and not come pick it up.
Yep. I mean, hey, that got you through some tough times. That's how we save some money to do some more gaming. Let me tell you. All right, dude. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you if they don't find you over at Dreamhack this weekend?
All right, Brianpsionic on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. That's it. A bunch of WWE content coming, and I will probably dipping my finger back into Fight Forever, since I'm sure there'll be a whole lot of new players with the PlayStation Plus release.
And you can find me everywhere at PowerDragon, POWRDRAGN. And if you come over to my YouTube channel, we have a really fun video I did with Deb from SBMTG where we took everybody's 12 hottest Magic takes. And boy, we didn't agree with a lot of them. So that's a fun video to watch. But as always, wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome. And most importantly, be awesome to each other.